Okay, good morning class. Our lesson for today is about the vertical distribution of our lateral forces. So in this problem, a 10-story building has a moment-resisting steel frame for a lateral force-resisting system. Find the vertical distribution of lateral forces Fx. The following information is given. So what is given? So the given is the breakdown of the weight per story of our building. Our building is located on seismic zone 4. It has a total weight of 18,400 kilonewton. It has an R of 8.5, an importance factor of 1.0, a seismic source type of A, and distance to the seismic source would be 20 kilometers, and the soil profile type is also given to be SC. So, what is required in this problem is our lateral forces Fx. Ibig sabihin nito, ano yung lateral forces per story of our building? So, that is the vertical distribution of the lateral force. So, before we distribute the lateral force, we need to know what are we going to distribute first. And that, yung i-distribute natin na yun, that is the design base shear. So, the first thing that we're going to do is to determine the design base shear. So, if we're going to determine the design base shear, ano yung unang step in determining the design base shear? The first thing is to determine what is T. T is what? T is the structure period. And we have two methods in determining structure period. We have method A and method B. So, in method A, T would be equal to CT Hn raised to 3/4. So, CT, C sub T for a steel frame is 0.0853. Tama? You have to check it. 0.0853 for steel. And Hn means the height of the highest level on the frame. So, what is the highest level on the frame? So, dito sa frame natin, if you look back on our frame, ito yung highest level. Meaning, this one. If you can see my pen, this one, ito yung highest level. So, if we're going to get that highest level, class, we have to get all this, the entire height of that highest level, and that would be, if we're going to get that one, that would be, going to solve it first. So, it would be 38.4, okay? So, that is 38.4 meters. So, the Hn should be in meters, okay, for us to get the structure period. And when we substitute this equation in our calculator, we would end up with a value of 1.32 seconds structure period. So, next thing, pag nakuha na natin structure period, yung other, ganyan pa, what do you call that one? Basta, yung ibang mga factors pa, other factors in determining the design base shear, like the near source factor and the CA and CV. Okay, so first, you have to get NA and NV. So, in the table to 8-4 and to 8-5 in the near source factor, pag seismic source type A at greater than 20 ang distance, NA would be 1.0. How about NV? It would also be 1.0. So, for us to get our CA and CV, we need to determine the seismic, the soil profile type. And the soil profile type given is SC. And it is in seismic zone 4. So, our CA would be 0.4 of NA. 0.4 of 1 is 0.4. And the CV would be 0.56 of NV. 0.56 of 1 is 0.56. Now, upon getting since nakuha na natin ng ating NA and NV, the next thing that we're going to do is we have to determine the design base shear na. So, we have to get V, the design base shear. And V is given by the equation CV I RT W. So, what is our CV? That is 0.4. Importance factor is 1.0. R is 8.5. And the structure period would be T. That is 1.32, and the total weight balikan natin yun. The total weight is given as 18,400. So, ano ang ating V? So, substitute the value in our calculator. That would be 655. Ay, mali pala. The CV is not 0.4. The CV is 0.56. I'm sorry, class. So, 0.56. Dapat ito. So, palitan ulit natin yung ating calculator. So, that would be 918.36 kilonewton. Okay? Or pwede naman natin gawing 918.4 na lang. Gawin na lang natin 918.4. Or depende sa inyo kung paano nyo i-round up. Pero konti lang naman yung difference. So, nag-end na ba tayo dyan? Hindi pa, di ba? Kasi kailangan pa nating i-determine yung limits ng ating design base shear. Kasi meron tayong minimum design base shear, tapos meron tayong maximum. So, for us to get the maximum, the Vmax, that is given by the equation sa ating NSCP, 2.5 CAI over R times W. So, 2.5 CA natin would be 0.4. Importance factor is 1.0 over 8.5 times the weight, which is 18,400. At ano ang ating upper limit? The upper limit would be, you have to compute this one on your own, okay? Baka mali kasi yung itatype ko dito. So, it would be 2,164.7. Okay? So, ito yung ating upper limit. And then, we have the V minimum. So, sa V minimum, we have two equations. Meron tayong general equation, tapos meron tayong equation para sa nasa seismic zone 4. So, hanapin ko lang. So, the base shear should not be less than 0.11 of CAIW. So, substitute lang natin yan. 0.11, CA would be 0.4, I would be 1.0, and 18,400. So, ito yung minimum. 0.11 times 0.4 times 1 times 18,400. 809.6 kilonewton. And then, meron din tayong for seismic zone 4. For seismic zone 4, V minimum would be equal to 0.8 Z NV I over R times W. Itutuloy ko na lang to on the other page. Okay. So, V minimum, 0.8. Seismic zone, 0.4. NV, ano ba yung NV natin? NV, 1.0. And I, 1.0 over 8.5 times 18,400. So, on the calculator, so it would be, the minimum would be 692.7 kilonewton. So, since dalawang minimum limit, ano yung gagamitin natin? So, ang gagamitin nating minimum yung mas malaki. It would be 809.6. Diba? So, 809.6 yung minimum natin. So, ito-check natin ngayon if, Vmin, if our V is between the minimum and maximum limits. So, 809.6, ano yung ating V? 918.4 And our Vmax is what? Our Vmax is 2,164. 2,164.7. So, check and check. So, ang ating design base shear would be 918.4 kilonewton. What if the design base shear falls below the minimum? What should we use? We should use the minimum. What if our design base shear would fall greater than the maximum limit? So, hindi pwedeng greater than maximum and hindi pwedeng less than minimum. So, dapat, kung mas mababa siya sa minimum, gagamitin natin yung minimum as design base shear. Kapag yung computer naman na design base shear mas mataas sa maximum, gagamitin natin yung maximum limit. Since the value of this design base shear falls between the minimum and the maximum, ibig sabihin, gagamitin natin kung ano yung na-compute natin design base shear, that is 918.4 kilonewton. So, okay na tayo sa ating design base shear. And that is only step number 2 pa lang, 'di ba? Ang gagawin natin, we have to distribute our design base shear. So, next step natin is to compute for our fx at each level. Pero before we do that one, ang sabi dito sa NSCP, sa pagdi-distribute natin ng ating lateral force, merong tayong naka-reserve na FT. Sabi dito, in the vertical distribution of forces, ang formula ng vertical distribution of forces is FT plus summation of all the F, magsimula sa level 1 hanggang sa highest level. So, ang isa nating gagawin is to determine the FT. FT would be the concentrated force at the top. Okay. So, FT is given by the formula 0.07 TV. The value of T used for the purpose of calculating FT shall be the period that corresponds with the design base shear. So, yung T na na-compute natin. And FT should not be exceeding 0.25 of B. So, FT max should be 0.25 of V. So, dapat hindi siya mag-exceed na 25% of our design base shear. And may be considered as 0 where T is 0.2 second or less. So, FT is 0 if T is 0.2 second or less. Our T class is 1.32 seconds. This is greater than 0.7 seconds. So, shall we consider FT as 0? No. So, we need to compute FT. And FT is 0.07 times the period times the design base shear. So, the value of our FT would be 0.07 times 1.32 times 918.4. And our FT would be 84.86 kilonewton. But we need to check first kung sumobra ba siya dun sa limit. Diba? Ano ang limit? The FT maximum is 0.25 of V. At ano ang V? 1918.4. So, what is the 25% of our design base shear? That is 229.6. So, since 84.86 is less than 229.6, ang gagamitin natin na FT, next na tayo, gagamitin natin na FT would be 84.86 kilonewton. So, that is the reserve or the concentrated force at the top or at the highest level. Now, we're now ready to solve for our Fx. And Fx is given by the following, paano yan? V minus Ft. So, design base shear minus nung concentrated at the top, yun na yung i-distribute natin per level. And the distribution is given by this formula, Wx Hx over yung summation ng lahat ng WX, HX. Okay. So, yan na yung ating gagawin. So, ang gagawin natin, we have to get our V minus FT. At ang ating VI, 918.4 minus 84.86. Ano to? 918.4 minus 84.86. This would be 833.54. Ibig sabihin, yung paghahatian ng lahat ng levels ay 833.54 na lang. Kasi, yung 84.86, naka-reserve na yun at the top. Okay? So, ang gagawin natin dyan ay, ang formula natin is Fx would be 833.54 Wx Hx over summation of Wi, Hi, where I would be equal to 1 and hanggang level 10 because it has 10 levels. Okay. So, para mas madali ito, ang gagawin natin, gagawa na lang tayo ng table. Okay. So, para magawa natin para mas madali ang computation, gawan na lang natin siya ng table. Okay. So, ito na. So, we have level, have the roof, yung highest level, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Then, yung height of each level, then, weight of each level, and then yung kailangan natin sa equation natin, that is Wx, Hx, then yung multiplier natin, Wx, Hx over the summation of all that Wh, Hx. And then we have our Fx. And then i-compute na rin natin yung ating Vx, yung shear at each level. Okay, so, ba't hinabaan ko pa dito? Hindi ata kasya pag tig-dalawa nila. Okay, so, height on each level. So, nahin natin sa baba, 6 plus 3.6. Mag-add lang tayo ng 3.6 dito, di ba? Naka-meters to ha. Di ko pala nailagay dun sa taas. Okay, so weight ng bawat floor, 950. Naka-kilonewton naman to. So, ikakopy nyo lang para mas madali. Taas pala yung andito, 2,600. And then, para sa next column natin, Wx, Hx, you need to multiply. Imumultiply mo lang yung dalawang columns. So, 38.4 times 950. That would be 36,480. So, ganun din dito sa baba. 34.8 times 1,800. That is 62,640. So, i-multiply mo lang yan. So, madali lang to kapag naka-Excel tayo. So, i-compute nyo to ha. You have to double check what I am writing kasi baka mali. Okay, you need to compute this one. Ngayon, i-add natin lahat ito. So, add natin lahat. So, the total would be 387,420. Ngayon, para sa next column naman, i-divide nyo yung WXHX dun sa total niya. So, dito sa first, we have 36,480 divide it by 387,420. So, that would be 0.094. Tapos, yung next naman, 62640 divide it by 387,420. That is 0.162. So, ganyan lang yung gagawin ninyo. Okay? Tapos, follow sa next. So, ngayon, yung yung fx natin, di ba, ang formula niya ay v minus ft wx hx over summation of that one. N pala to, general. Okay, so, ang formula natin dito ay ano na? 833.54. So, kapag kukunin natin yung f natin dito sa second level, F2, that would be, ano yung V? 833.54. 833.54 times, eto na, kasi etong WXHX summation, eto na yung andito sa bawat level. So, ang gagawin natin, times na lang natin to ng 0.031. So, that would be 833.54 times 0.031. That is 25.84 kilonewton. Naka-kilonewton na to, ilagay na lang natin dito yung kilonewton. So, ganun din dito sa taas. So, yung sa level 3 naman, 0.048 times 833.54. So, that would be 40.01. So, ang F2 natin, 25.84 kilonewton. So, yan na yung Fx natin for each level. So, we need to compute this one. 78.35, 135.03, 120.06, 106.69, 93.36, 114.19, 66.68, and 52.51. Now, if we're going to total this one, ang total nito ay 833.54. Kulang, di ba? Kasi ang dapat na base year natin, it should be 918.4. Kasi nga, tinanggal natin yung FT. And that FT belongs at the top, concentrated force at the top. Meaning, yung FT na binawas natin na 84.86, ilalagay natin dito sa taas. So, that would be 78.35 plus 84.86. Okay. Masyadong malaki yung eraser ko. So, ano to? 135.03. So, ano na yung nakalagay dyan kanina? So, that is 78.35 plus 84.86. That would be 163.21. Para yung maging total base shear natin dito, pag i-add natin yan, it would be what? It would be 918.4. Bakit ko inad yung 84.86 sa taas? Kasi nga, FT is the concentrated force at the top. Kaya dun dapat siya sa top. Okay? So, next naman is yung ating Vx. So, ano ang V? So, basahin natin yung ating NSCP kung ano bang ibig sabihin ng shear at each level. Saan ba natin mababasa yun? Okay, ayun pala. The design story shear Vx in any story is the sum of the forces Ft and Fx above that story. Vx shall be distributed to various elements. So, ang Vx class is ang nakalagay dito sa NSCP is the design story shear in any story